Yo, yo, yo. This is Trading Trenches, your number one podcast for trading news and views, helping you navigate the financial markets. It's your boy Nathan,
It's your boy Warren.
and today we're here to discuss renewable energy, the biggest opportunity of the decade.
Or the new oil. Now, to help us discuss this topic, we decided that we would get someone who's an expert leader in this sector. So let's introduce him. Dr. Patrick Agese. He's worked in the industry for 10 years already. He has a company called PAM Africa that is trading at the moment. And yes, welcome, Patrick, to the
Hi,
podcast.
thank you very much, guys, and very a pleasure of mine to be on your podcast.
Thank you. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you. So yeah, we just want to go straight right into it. And for those listeners that don't know at home, they don't know about renewable energy. We just want to know, what is actually renewable energy?
That's a good question, and the reason why I said that's a good question because there's a lot of people that talk about renewable energy without actually understanding what is the fundamentals. What do you classify as something being renewable and it falling within renewable energy category? So in summary, right, renewable energy is an energy that is derived from a natural resource that does not diminish. So it always replenishes itself through nature. So example of that is wind, rain, sunlight, tides, waves, and geothermal heat. Right. So this is so any energy that you derive from these sources is classified as renewables.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So you're saying wind, sunlight. So my next question would be, what are the drawbacks of renewable energy when there is no wind, when there is no sunlight?
Yeah, so the drawbacks of renewable energy, I mean, it varies in so many different factors. So it obviously financially, environmentally, politically, and so forth. What I would say is there's currently three key drawbacks for the industry as a whole. Number one is costs, so the financial cost of renewable energy. As much as it's a great technology, it's still relatively expensive in certain areas. And a lot of governments and international bodies have been working on reducing this cost, either through research and development, economies of scale, so having more production of this technology, or subsidies. And there's been a lot have been deployed in the last couple of years across the world, and we're seeing this cost gradually reduce over time. So the second is also the second area of the challenge, which I talked about, was around geopolitics also. So there is, I mean, we can see majority of the manufacturing for solar specifically comes from Asia, so specifically China, and we also seen other players getting involved in this sector, such as India and all the developing countries as they go along. But we're seeing a challenge around how the geopolitics is being played across these nations. So there is the oil sector being heavily getting involved in the renewables now, so putting their money into renewables. We're seeing that change. So hopefully these geopolitics end up balancing itself out, that we can get more cost-effective options and also access to these technologies. And the third, but not the least, is flexibility. Like you did mention, Warren, what happens when sunlight isn't available? What happens when there's minimal wind available? What happens when there's less tidal available? So these are environmental conditions that we can predict, but we don't have significant control over.
Yeah,
that's what leads to the problem of flexibility. So then you might ask me the question of, what do you mean by flexibility? So flexibility is being able to charge and discharge energy when you need them. So when there's no sunlight, you can charge this energy using a battery or a energy storage device, and then supply the energy at periods of time where there is no sunlight or wind. And that flexibility seems to be a challenge, but also a great opportunity. And as we go forward into this podcast, I'll discuss with you why I feel that flexibility will be a great opportunity for the renewable energy industry.
Fantastic. I think Nathan wants to ask a question. Nathan,
So
did you want to ask something, or should I
yeah,
move on
so
to my next one?
no, yeah, move on to your next question.
Right. Okay. So, Pat, what would you say the current condition of the renewable energy market is? I basically mean, in terms of the whole energy market, what proportion has the renewable energy market sector got in that market?
Okay, no, that's very good. So I mean, I'll answer the first question of what the condition of the market is, and so currently what we're seeing is it's actually a very interesting space. A lot of people who work in this space now are excited about the future. They're excited about how things are going to change, because they're currently seeing the change around them, as well as it being still an up and coming growing technology and innovation. So it's
Yeah.
very rare that you have a case where an industry is heavily being researched and developed at the same time, but is currently being observed in the real world at the same time. And that's a very rare case. So that's what makes it interesting. So I'll give an example, right? So in 2005, in the UK, had about 1% of our generation came from renewable energy technologies.
Just 1%.
Just 1%, right?
Wow.
But as
Okay.
we speak, right this second, as we speak, I'm actually looking at the figures right now. We have about 23.8% of our energy being provided from renewables.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we're seeing that significant growth from 2005 to now, and this growth is going to continue growing in the next couple of 10, 15 years time. And let's say during the summer period, where there's a majority of the sunlight and good wind and good hydro, we get that 23.8% goes up to about 50% of our generation comes from renewables. So we are going to get to a point where there's going to be a growth to about 70%, but that doesn't mean that we should be blinded into the other areas. So, for example, gas, for example, is cheap. Gas can also be clean, depends on how you look at it. And also can provide a good economical value for us. So gas, I always feel that gas would be part of our energy system, irrespective of how great renewables will become. So we should also consider other. It's a balance between, I think, sustainability is a balance between the environmental needs, the economical needs, and the people's needs. So if we see gas to be providing a good value within that system. So that's how I see the current condition of the market. But one more thing that we need to be aware of is that we're seeing a synergy between the transport and the renewable energy market.
That's right. That's right.
But
sorry to stop you, Pat. I think that's just I think that's just a manifestation of the whole renewable energy movement. Because you're seeing the likes of Tesla have putting out cars. I mean, they put out 500,000 cars last year. However, their market cap is so much more than a 500,000 car company, if that makes sense, because they're investing in solar panels, charging ports, and so forth. So I think that's just a manifestation of that. But go ahead.
And that's a good point. I mean, we're seeing the likes of Tesla, Solar City, and the rest, even the oil companies, heavily invested into renewables and clean technology. But what makes it really interesting is that synergy between transport and energy, because what we're going to start seeing is seeing individuals knowing more about energy, right? I mean, because energy will be part of our day-to-day conversation. Some examples where you say, okay, you've gone to the petrol station to fill up your car for £20 or one full tank for £20 or one full tank for £60, depending on what type of vehicle you have. You'll be having conversation in kilowatt hours. So you just spent 10 kilowatt hours of filling your car, or 50 kilowatt hours. So it's a completely different mindset and a change of society and how we think about so many different things.
I think me and Nathan had that conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to add, I mean, I recently started driving an electric car myself, and when I compared the amount that I was spending on charging, fully charging a car, and then the range, I guess the amount of miles that I would get, it was almost a no-brainer in terms of cost relative to, or compared to a fuel, typical combustion style engine. And so, me as a consumer, I can see that, and I can only imagine businesses as, the price of, I guess, electric vehicles comes down, and then maybe even renewable energy becomes even cheaper. I can imagine that businesses will start to think of it as a no-brainer. And as you said, eventually people will be like, well, why are you even driving a normal car? And then, yes, I agree, our whole thinking will have to shift where we think of, things in kilowatt energy or kilowatt hour. Sorry if I don't have the right terminology, but yeah, a whole a whole mindset will shift. Really, I agree completely.
100%, 100%, and we need to stay abreast of what is really driving this change, um, and a lot of people have various conversations, but we do have to understand that as much as the climate change or the climate emergency seems to be a key driver, for example, the UK has set to be net zero by 2050. So 2050, what that means is we shouldn't produce any carbon emissions in the UK,
Wow,
irrespective of what
wow.
industries we're in, right? These are very big changes. We're saying 2040 or 2035, there will be no sales of any diesel or petrol cars, right? These are very big fundamental changes that we're going to see in
Yeah.
society. And these drivers are what's leading to some of the innovation around this area, but also even down to the customer, right? So the customer's point of view, it's easier. I like my electric car. Nathan, I'm guessing you like your electric car.
I love it.
It saves you any cost of
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
and everyone else. So we're seeing good products being come into the market that shows the benefit of the customer, irrespective of the policy drives. And I think that's a great thing because once you can get the buy-in from the customer, but also strong leadership from government, and that's where you get to see this innovation come to life.
Yeah. And lastly, Patrick, thank you for that. Last question from me. Where do you see the renewable energy market in 10 years' time? Now, you're saying that it's currently using 23% now. Where do you see it in 10 years' time, and what developments would you predict in 10 years?
Okay. Like with all academics or experts in the area, we always decide to give our figures and basis of different things. But I'll actually base some of my thoughts on the Bloomberg New Energy Finance, which says that the market would probably grow to about 22 trillion dollar market by 2031. So which is in the next 10 years.
22 trillion.
Yeah. So
And it's currently at.
So it's currently at the moment is about 3 to 4 trillion dollars. So we're seeing a significant growth. I mean, that's almost 8x fold of 8 times growth in that market. So this is an area that is going to definitely increase. But I do have my top 6 predictions, and I'll run through with you now. So I definitely know that it's going to be for this year specifically. This year specifically, and I think part of these predictions are backed by Bloomberg as well, and I've cross-checked this. So $500 billion of investment will go into the renewable energy markets this year in 2021 only, right? So that's $500,000, right?
500 billion.
Sorry, $500 billion. I'm sorry
Yeah.
for that. Yeah. And then we're also going to see sustainable finance to grow. So those ETFs and those funds which are majority based on sustainable energy and sustainable financing, those will grow significantly. We're going to see continuous growth of solar and wind, so wind installations all over the world. So solar installation, we're going to see that go up to about 150 gigawatts. We're going to get 15% more wind than we had last year, this year alone, because there'll be some key investment funding that's gone towards these areas, which should hopefully come to reality very soon. We're also going to see over 4.4 million passenger electric vehicles being sold globally. So this tells you that the electric vehicle market is going to grow significantly. I started looking into the EV market in 2011, and at the time in the UK we had about 3 to 4% of no, so not sorry, 3 to 4,000 electric vehicles being registered online. Now we have over 200,000, and this is in the
Wow.
space of less than 10 years, right?
10 years. Yeah.
So if we're looking at this growth, we're going to see consistent growth of electric vehicles over the year and over the next couple of years. This will come through by the implementation of new policy, so the banning of sale of diesel and electric vehicles. This will come in by new innovation and new technology, and also the social norm. If when electric vehicles become a social norm where people actually want to buy electric vehicles and they become cost effective, because currently electric vehicles, yes, they're still expensive, but by 2025 we're going to see them coming at a similar price as conventional vehicles. And also batteries. I think my last prediction, not least, but batteries. Whoever invests in the battery market at the moment, you will count your stars in the next 10 years, because no, I'm being serious. It's it's going to be one of the biggest commodities as we go forward, because with all these renewables and electric vehicles and mobile phones and laptops and innovation technology and flexibility and decentralization, all these things require batteries. And the battery metal prices and firms will increase, but also the cost of batteries will go down once we can get more economy of scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's super.
Yeah, that's great. That's no more further questions for me, Pat. You've been great.
Yeah. In terms of questions that I have, is just, and I think you might have mentioned this, but I just want to just drill into this quickly, is when do you expect globally, and I'm not sure if there's any stats or any figures you've got there, but when do you expect renewable energy to actually kind of flip the existing kind of fossil fuel based energy system, and then we'll have, I guess, more than 50% of our energy actually coming from I guess renewable?
Oh, great. So first of all, we start off with when we'll get to peak oil. Peak oil is a phenomenon where we have the maximum amount of oil being extracted. No, the maximum amount of oil being extracted from the earth, and then after that, we'll be coming to a diminishing return. A depleting resource. So there will be less oil as we go forward, going down. So when we get to that point, I think Bloomberg New Energy Finance has estimated that we'll get to peak oil by 2035. What does that mean? That means alternatives is required. So I see from 2035 going forward, globally, we'll see renewable energy take a very strong position, ideally become the dominant source of energy source. But things can always change. I mean, this is also depending on a lot of factors such as politics, availability of resources, materials, and so forth. But I think by 2035, we'll get renewable energy to become a dominant source of energy.
No, that's great. And there's one really quick question. I appreciate we're running short on time, but it's just on solar energy specifically. I was a bit upset that none of your predictions were on solar energy, just because I guess we're all descend from Africa originally, and I think there's major upside for the continent when it comes to solar specifically. Do you have any predictions on that? Or any, I guess, insight on what we can look forward to in the near term?
Yeah, so with solar, I mean, it's obvious that we'll see high growth in solar over the next couple of years. What that would be, so I think specifically globally, Bloomberg has said that solar will get up to 150 gigawatts of supply by the end of this year, right? But I don't know what that would look like by 2030 or 2050, but hopefully we'll see that continuous growth. But there's no doubt there would be growth. But currently, that supply would definitely improve from about 120 gigawatts to 150 gigawatts in 2021 before the end of this year.
Wow, fascinating.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Agese, people. Yeah, where can people find you, Patrick? Where can people what are you up to now?
So currently, I mean, I only use one social media platform for my professional environment, so which is LinkedIn. So Dr. Patrick Agese on LinkedIn, and then you can also find me on online. If you search my name, there's a few articles and projects I've been involved in, and then you can either send them an email or send me an email directly, which should be fine. But ideally, LinkedIn is probably the best place.
Yeah. And your Pam Africa?
Pan Africa, yeah. So we also have delivering large energy infrastructure across Africa. So we have pamafrica.com, the www.pamafrica.com, and also pamafrica.ng, which is specifically focused on the Nigerian market.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Agese, people. That's it. That's it from me. That's it for Nathan. Have you got anything to add?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Agese. You've been superb, really insightful.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Thank you very much, Warren. Really nice to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. All right then, guys. Moving on to the next section. We will be discussing the top 3 picks of stock within the renewable energy market that we believe that will perform well this year and in years to come. The reason for these predictions are based on prior performance, and we're going to just break it down as to why we feel these top 3 picks will perform so well. Now, first off, we have Plug Power. Now, Plug Power is a company that provides alternative energy technology, which focuses on the design, development, and manufacturing of hydrogen and fuel cell systems, used primarily for the material handling and stationary power markets. Now, if for those that don't really understand that, basically it just helps companies that distribute a lot of stock around the world, and it transfers their fossil fuels energy systems into EV, renewable energy systems. So it's the transitioning from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Basically, that's what they do. So currently, as of today, their dollar share on the market is $60 per share. Their performance was very good last year. They had a 300% upturn on from last year, and their total market cap is £28.1 billion as of today. So that is one of my personal favorites, why I believe that has a very strong upside even still to this day. Nathan, do you want to touch upon that?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, what they're doing, they're developing these hydrogen fuel systems that are going to replace kind of the conventional batteries, and they're replacing those batteries in cars or vehicles, as well as equipment. So, there's a massive market for that. And as we've seen recently, the price has, pretty much gone parabolic because of the deal that they've just agreed with Renault. Now that deal.
Sorry, Nathan, when was that?
So there's recently a deal, Plug Power and Renault. I believe it was about a week or so ago, where they've had this joint venture for them to kind of provide Renault with battery systems. Now, admittedly, it'll probably take a while, a year, maybe 2 years or so, before they get those prototypes out there. But you can see that the future is very bright when a large established company like Renault is having these joint ventures with Plug Power. And you can imagine, if they pull it off with Renault, that a number of the other large car companies will start to, be very interested in having similar ventures with them, which would only drive the price even higher.
Fair enough. Yeah, so that's the reason why we believe that particular stock will outperform a lot of other stocks that you currently have in your portfolio, if you have a portfolio already. So just keep an eye out on that, guys. So secondly, we've got First Solar.
Yeah.
Uh,
So First Solar are again an American manufacturer of solar panels, and they're also a provider of kind of large scale um, PV power plants. So that's huge power plants that are kind of utilizing the sun's power to create energy. They also do kind of supporting services, so finance for solar panel. Um, People that want to get involved in kind of solar panel energy production. They help with the construction of those kind of power plants, maintenance, and you know end of life panel recycling as well. So
Okay.
once the panels kind of come to the end of their life or usage, they also do the recycling as well. They're currently valued at a market cap of around about the 10-11 billion dollar mark. And if you look at their performance last year, from January 20, shares were valued at around about $50, and they ended the year valued at around about $100. Despite COVID, they kind of did a doubled pretty much in value. Now, the reason that I put this on the list is, as we kind of discussed earlier during our interview, the solar industry in general will do very, very well. Now, what we're looking at here is specifically a company that will benefit, in my mind, from a lot of demand, specifically in the US, especially when you think of, Joe Biden coming in, and there being this shift, kind of a political shift towards clean energy, solar energy, renewable energy. I think that they will, they're already like one of the largest companies that does solar energy in the US. And so I think that they'll get a lot of upside just from the political aspect as well as solar energy, so being so much more efficient than some of the existing non-renewable sources. Another thing that I liked about them was just the amount that they invest into R&D, and they're really on the cutting edge of pushing their technology to increase the energy yield from the solar panels, meaning that each year they're bringing more and more efficient solar panels out to the market, which will create greater yields from their power plants.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I mean, I'm predicting good upside for the year to come, and in the years in the coming future.
Fair enough, guys. So we've broken down Plug Power, First Solar, and our last stock of today will be Workhorse Group, which is both our personal favourites. I'll believe.
Yeah.
I think it's got tremendous upside. So Workhorse Group technology primarily focuses on providing solutions to commercial transportation sector. So it has two products: an electrical delivery truck and an unmanned package delivery aircraft called Horsefly.
We've entered the future.
We've officially entered the future. Unmanned package delivery aircraft. Wow. So yeah, let's just go into more detail, Nathan, into Workhorse.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. They're kind of focusing on this like last mile delivery. So when you think of your Amazons, your UPSs, your FedExes, your Hermes, all of these companies that are doing really well at the moment, given COVID, they're thinking, okay, how can we make that last mile from the warehouse to your door as efficient as possible? And we've seen, the likes of Tesla do well in the kind of car EV range. They're saying, okay, how can we apply that to delivery vehicles?
Yeah.
So I think they're currently valued at around about the sort of $23 mark.
Yeah, $23.
they've gone up about 233% over the last year.
Now, can we just 233%? I mean,
Yep.
so if you put £100 in, you would have got 233 back. If you put
No,
1,000 in,
yeah,
333. I mean, these are serious numbers that we're talking, and that's why we're so confident that this year will be a very strong year for Workhorse and the other two.
yeah.
Their market cap is at 2.81 billion, and we still feel that it has areas to grow tremendously at that $23 mark. What do you say?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the reasons that I'm particularly bullish on Workhorse is that they've recently joined a tender to supply UPS with kind of replace their aging fleet of delivery vehicles. Now,
Okay.
the delivery vehicles obviously UPS have at the moment are kind of, your standard engine and combustion fuel engines. Now, of the three companies that have been kind of allowed to get to the final stage of the tender, Workhorse are the only electric vehicle company, or the company that have solely electric vehicles. Now, when you look at the cost price, so when you compare the internal combustion engine to the EV engine, the internal combustion engine runs on about $1 per mile in terms of cost. Now, the EV engine, or battery really, runs on about 36 cents per mile. So you're looking at, or you're thinking about UPS making a decision, and they're going to think, well, potentially we could save about 65 cents per mile, 65% of our kind of per mile cost, our variable costs. Another cost that's not really considered when looking at that per mile cost is the fact that electric vehicles have fewer moving parts and ultimately fewer things that can go wrong. The maintenance costs are a lot lower as well. And so in addition to that kind of 65% reduction in cost per mile, you also have a significant, probably in the thousands of costs that you don't have to now spend on maintenance and repairs per vehicle. So, and that tender, that contract is worth $6.3 billion. And just bear in mind, the total market cap for Workhorse is only $2.8 billion. So that one contract in itself could potentially be worth 3 times the value of the company. So massive potential upside if they are to get that contract. And if they don't, there's still plenty of opportunity out there for a company like Workhorse.
Yep, it's exciting times to come. I'm excited for all three, really. I believe there's massive upside this year. And we just have to wait and see. I think that's it for today, guys. I just want to say a special thanks to Dr. Patrick Agese for taking the time out to really just inform us and upon this market. It's an emerging market, and I think it's here to stay.
Yeah.
And really, we just need to sit tight and see what happens. You've been listening to Trading Trenches. Thank you, guys, for taking the time out to listen to us. Episode 6, we've done it. We made it through to episode 6. We are now on YouTube, Spotify. So please subscribe to our channels, like and comment. And yeah, join us on our next episode as we continue to trade in the trenches.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.
This podcast is for information and education to investors and is not financial advice. Investments and trading carry risks to your capital as well as potential rewards. If you are unsure of any investment decision, you should seek a professional financial advisor.